world. I've worked on multiple types of cases, everything from people who have a deceased loved one or pet to things a bit more complex, like homes that are haunted, or even murder cases, unresolved cases with different police departments, detectives, and also assisted with missing persons cases as well throughout the years. Really excited to be here today with you guys and to tell you a little bit about what I'm doing. And I hope that some of you who may be interested in this type of stuff or have any questions can feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Carla with a C, Maria, XOXO, or my website, which is Guided by Divine, GuidedByDivine.com. All right. So if you guys are ready, I think we're going to go ahead, and I'm not sure how they wanted to set everything up today, but you all just kind of tell me, what would be good. We can always share some of the cases and things that I've worked on that are a little bit more memorable than others. But for those of you who are just tuning in right now or coming on to the live, right, I do work as a full-time psychic medium. I do not work with tarot cards or any of kind of the tools, I guess, that a traditional medium or some people that do readings do. Things are done very differently in the way that I do it, in the sense that I also work as a psychic development teacher. And the number one thing that I teach to my students is that I actually ask them to, eliminate any kinds of their tools or stuff that they use or rely upon. And the reason for that being, whether I'm connecting to the spirit of a deceased loved one or I'm asking questions about somebody's, future, right? Things that they want to know about or things happening in their present life. My number one goal as a psychic, and what I tell people as well, before they go to see somebody, before they read someone, is to figure out, what are the means by which they connect, right? Ideally, you want, in my opinion, if I go to somebody, right, even one of my students or, one of the intuitives I work with for my own personal stuff, I will always prefer to go to somebody myself who directly connects to their channel, and ideally directly to God, source, consciousness, spirit, whatever it is that resonates with you, right, in regards to that. And the reason for that is because if I'm doing a reading for a person, right, I want to make sure that my energy is protected and guarded, meaning that you as well as a client, when I'm reading you, your energy is going to be open to me, meaning that if an intuitive, a psychic, a healer, somebody that you're working with has entities, attachments, or picked something up like a co-possession, even from somebody who they are working with, that can very easily be passed on to you. Picture it kind of like a virus. If you are in an elevator with somebody and you're in that same space, right? And your energies are very close to each other, those types of things can happen. And the biggest reason as well that I choose to work with those types of psychics, or I choose myself to directly to that kind of consciousness, is because I, as a human being, I'm going to have naturally my own perspectives and viewpoints of this world, the way that I perceive reality, right? And if an intuitive is relying on tools, and oftentimes with cards, what is the number one thing that has to be considered? Well, cards, for example, I use tarot cards as an example because there's a lot of people that use them. And I know I'm not saying that they aren't a good way to get some information, but for myself personally, I know that in order to read cards, you have to then analyze and to a certain degree, interpret what the meaning of the cards is for that human being, right? And so the problem with that is that my ego would automatically be involved in your reading. If I'm using cards, immediately that reading is no longer of the purity of what's the highest truth perhaps for you, simply for the fact that we are talking about now me having to analyze and bring in my perspective, my truth, and what I perceive the meaning behind those cards to be. So when it comes to those things, whether I'm connecting to somebody's loved one or to a guide, I have the goal of actually removing my own self, my own identity, in the sense of my ego, that of which is identified as Carla from your reading. Because if I bring any of my presence, of my perspective, the way I see the world into your reading, I'm not going to be necessarily able to give to you or any other medium or psychic for that fact, right? Because then they're not looking at necessarily what resonates to you based on your perspectives, your truth, and the way that you see and perceive your reality, your manifestations, and your creations. So that gives you kind of a little bit of information of my process, right? People ask, oh, are the tools, are the cards, etc. And a lot of the time, my readings are pretty much done via Zoom unless I have been booked for a special event, a corporate type of thing, or something that requires, a much higher fee to travel, right? I have clients all over the world, so really not limited to any country whatsoever. And if you're interested, you can always take a look at my testimonials page, and you'll see people from all over the world who contributed, throughout the years to sharing their experiences. And so one of the things that also I do offer to clients that's a little bit different than other intuitives is the ability. I have something that is kind of referred to oftentimes as retrocognizance, meaning that the ability to see and perceive your past lives, right? Because what is one thing they say? Anything that we have not learned from history is doomed to repeat itself, right? And the same thing goes for your soul. When you're talking about the soul, you're talking about an infinite consciousness that can neither be created nor destroyed, just like Albert Einstein said, right? And all of these other, people that deal with quantum physics, they talk about how energy can neither be created nor destroyed, right? It simply changes form. And your soul, your consciousness, all of that you identify as you, that is in this human physical body that gives you that life, is, in a sense, energy. Meaning that if you have previous incarnations, unresolved lessons, we have to repeat those same lessons over and over again. And one of the most fascinating things that my brand new clients find is often if there's something like a blockage that they're coming to me for with energy work, right? I'm going to look first into your past lives and see what is not resolved, what's not been taken care of. Because just when I share with them that experience, they tend to find all the time, they're blown away that it's playing out in a modern day version now. So I'm going to have to wrap it up, you guys. I do have an appointment to get to, but I'm so grateful that I had a brief moment to kind of talk with you, share a little bit about what I do. And hopefully, regardless of whether or not you ever work with me, that you do choose wisely and be careful with who you open your energy to, whether that be, people you surround yourself with, intuitives, healers, all of that stuff, but especially in regards to readings and energy work, right? Keep yourself guarded and protected and close to that, which is the highest truth, which is essentially love and that God's source, spirit consciousness. Thank you.